Yo, what's up, YouTube? Thank you for clicking on the video. You know, um, they just said that Marvel completely changed all of their plans. I want to see what they're talking about. I'm gonna try to turn this up for y'all. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let's get into it, man. Why didn't it
What is
start?
going on, everybody?
Uh,
Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. The Wall Street Journal just released a very important article that I think every Marvel fan needs to hear what they said because they talk about how Marvel Studios has just reevaluated everything that they have done basically over the past 5 years and have decided to completely switch up everything that they're doing. This article talks about how Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, was basically pressured by Disney to create streaming content. They talk about how he was spread way too thin, and many people working on shows and movies had to run in the hallways to try and find him to just get a second of his time so he could approve or disapprove or give his input on certain projects. They talk about how the people at Marvel Studios talked about Marvel and superhero fatigue. They talk about why they did everything they have done recently, including bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Doctor Doom and making
yeah, why
Avengers
did
King
they do that?
Dynasty Avengers Doomsday. But most importantly, they talk about their plans moving forward. They acknowledge the issues of the past and are moving forward in a great way. And I think everybody needs to hear what is being said in this
All
article.
right,
So let's
let's
go
see what
ahead
he got to
and
say.
break it all down. The article itself is titled Disney Wanted More from Marvel, Now It Wants Less. The superhero studio is cutting back TV production and fixing its film slate after fans lost the plot. Now, right away, the article basically addresses and confirms what all of us fans thought all along. They state the head of Marvel Studios, speaking of Kevin Feige, told colleagues recently that watching all the comic book giants' new TV shows and films had started to feel more like homework than entertainment.
Bro, I watched that one show, Agatha. I was watching with my family because it was new or whatever at the time. We watching it, the plot twist hit. I gotta understand a show that came out like 2 years ago to even be hit with the plot twist, bro. Like, and yeah, okay, I didn't watch WandaVision. People said that was good, but it's like, bro, there's like 12 different Marvel shows I gotta watch to understand one movie now. Like, back then, you could just hop into the movies. You know what I'm saying? I started Marvel with like Avengers, like the very first Avengers, and it didn't make you feel like, okay, there's this mound of information that I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody could get into it. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
The problem, Kevin Feige acknowledged, is that in an effort to satisfy parent company Disney's hunger for content on its new streaming service, the studio behind The Avengers churned out too many movies and shows with interconnected stories. The deluge of material from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, on Disney Plus overwhelmed and eventually alienated viewers. It also stretched Feige and his team's resources thin, diluting the quality of their output. Marvel's box office sales, streaming popularity, and formerly untouchable position in pop culture suffered. So, right away, Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, admits that watching everything kind of felt a little bit more like homework than entertainment, and confirmed what we all thought. Disney was pressuring Marvel Studios to simply just produce a bunch of content for Disney Plus, and naturally everything suffered for it. But here's the good news. They acknowledge this and they are now getting back on track to try to get back to old school Marvel. They state now Feige is leading an internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track. Marvel is making fewer TV shows with standalone stories that don't require prior knowledge of the MCU.
thank
Feige is
you.
focused on fixing the studio's movie slate following recent flops like February's Captain America Brave New World. So right away, they're making less TV shows, and it sounds like now,
I need to watch
one, the TV
Daredevil.
shows
Is that the
aren't.
weekend?
making less TV shows, and it sounds like now, one, the
Oh, I'm tripping. Who is that? Who is that? Which Marvel character is that, y'all? Bro, that looked like the Weekend when he was in the Super Bowl, bro. Y'all remember that meme? He was like, people be telling me I need to listen to the Weekend. I just haven't really gotten into him like that. One song I really like by him is Starboy, or not Starboy, but Die for You.
TV
I like that
shows
song.
aren't going to require any prior knowledge in the MCU, meaning you won't really have to watch anything beforehand. So this is a big switch up. If you didn't watch Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Age of Ultron, and other things prior to watching WandaVision, you probably wouldn't have too much of an idea of what's going on. The same thing went for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Loki. If you didn't watch these before, it would be really hard to really get into the shows. So Marvel is no longer going to make shows like that. They're going to make shows that you can watch one off. And this most likely means that they won't have too many tie-ins to big events that are happening in the MCU overall. I'm sure some of them will, but it sounds like their goal is to basically make the MCU the way it was before, with all of the movies being the things that really interconnect with one another, and then the shows can be fun one-off adventures. And yes, they will take place in the MCU, so of course they'll be connected in that sense, but it sounds like they're going to make it to where they're not absolutely necessary for the overall story in the films. Now, as far as why Marvel suffered during this time where they were producing a lot of Disney Plus content, they talk about this in great detail in the article, and it all comes down to Kevin Feige. The article has a section titled Papa Feige. In this section, they talk about how great Kevin Feige has been at starting
Is that the
MCU.
Weekend?
Basically, building up to Avengers Endgame, and with Avengers Endgame, the studio really couldn't be touched, with of course its crowning achievement being in 2019 with Avengers Endgame, with it grossing $2.8 billion, a record at the time. But here's where the problem and the decline came in after that. They state during Marvel's heyday in the 2010s, Feige was heavily involved in the film development. He deployed lower-ranking executives to supervise shooting, then got his hands dirty again in the editing room, often making significant changes and ordering new scenes. And the movies were overseen by a small team of creative executives who came to be known as the Parliament. Most had been with the company since its founding or joined as assistants and were promoted, giving Marvel a family-like culture. And they state Feige was the studio's beloved and charismatic dad, a creative genius from whom everyone sought attention and approval. So it was working great before Endgame, but this is where the problem came. They say soon after Endgame, Marvel Studios started to work on what was next for the MCU. However, Disney was working on what would be best for Disney Plus to compete with Netflix, stating that Disney needed loads of new series for it, and they were counting on Marvel to provide many of them. The strategy became
Nah. I remember when it was Disney Plus that first came out. It was Disney. Nah. It was Star Wars. They had Star Wars. Cause I remember Mandalorian. That's what it was called. Everybody was talking about the Mandalorian. That's what came out. And then after that, they just started pumping stuff out, pumping stuff out. I know the Star Wars fans. They got to deal with exactly. I need to watch Star Wars. It looked cool. But I know the Star Wars fans. They dealing with what the Marvel fans dealing with. Cause it got to a certain point where it was like, yo, bro, I gotta watch 7 different shows to understand like one movie. Like that's flawed. You know what I'm
just
saying?
expansion, 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 said a person who worked at Marvel at the time. Kevin Feige told colleagues that he agreed to the plan because of a zealousness to tell more stories and a desire to be an excellent corporate citizen. It turned out to be a mistake. The Wall Street Journal states that Marvel's transition from producing a few hours of movie content annually to several dozen hours of streaming shows and films eventually broke down the studio's processes. A pair of executives oversaw each show, while Feige remained the final decision maker on every significant creative issue, even though there were exponentially more decisions to make each day. And here was the big problem. They state people who worked at Marvel in the early 2020s said it was challenging to secure enough time conversation with Feige to get his feedback. As a result, they sometimes spent weeks on work that proved irrelevant once he weighed in, then found themselves with little time to implement his changes before a deadline. Desperate staffers resorted to chasing Feige in the halls to get answers. So basically, what they are explaining here is that before, Kevin Feige used to look over everything. And that's because they used to only produce
Eyes
a
of
few movies
Wakanda.
a
What
year.
is
And they
that?
actually show a graph here that shows what they produced prior to Disney Plus and then what they started to produce after. And as you can see here, it is so much more. So while Kevin Feige used to be able to look over everything, it quickly turned into he was basically looking at some things here and there, giving his input every now and then. And then when the final product came, he demanded changes to make things better. But since there wasn't a lot of time, they really couldn't make all of the changes. And that definitely explains why the CGI for some things has been pretty sketchy. The team was asked to make changes with just not enough time to do it well. So the result was a lot of projects coming from Marvel Studios, all of which weren't the same quality that fans were used to. Which brings us to the next section titled Marvel Fatigue. They state the internal dysfunction began to show in Marvel's output. Viewers complained that there was too much Marvel content to keep up with, and a growing proportionate of it felt subpar, with shows failing to attract new viewers, or even old viewers, with shows like Secret Invasion and Miss Marvel. And they state that in the theaters, Marvel's biggest hits were the nostalgia stories like Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. They then stated that they had a lot riding on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and then it flopped. And then employees at Marvel started to talk regularly about Marvel fatigue. They worried that they had created a no new fans club in which people unfamiliar with the state of the MCU couldn't watch a new release because they'd have no idea what was going on. Meanwhile, Wall Street's obsession with streaming growth gave way to a focus on profitability, and Bob Iger and Kevin Feige began scrutinizing Marvel's costs and creative choices more closely. This led to them deciding that Blade's script was not good enough, and they scrapped the film. For now, at least. But this is where things kind of started
Bro, they done put that film down like 6 times already. Like,
to change. Quantumania bombed, and then Kevin Feige decided to become more involved, hoping that the Marvels wouldn't bomb. But it became Marvel's biggest bomb ever. And this is where all of the big Marvel changes come in. Marvel and Feige's Parliament team has gone to a retreat every fall in Palm Springs. They would go and they would plan out the future of the MCU. And in 2023, it was basically the worst time that they've ever gone, with Marvel not being in such good shape. The TV shows weren't working, the movies weren't working, and the studio had just laid off employees for the first time in its history. From here, they talked about whether or not they could salvage their plans for Kang Dynasty, with Quantumania being such a bomb, and talked about a new TV strategy in which shows would have plots divorced from the MCU, making them easier for new fans to understand. And this led to a bunch of changes that Marvel Studios then made and are continuing to make now. They decided to cut back significantly on TV production. And Disney CEO Bob Iger even said quantity in our case diluted quality, and Marvel has suffered greatly from that. And now they're only going to release 1 or 2 live-action streaming series annually, starting in 2026, with the
okay.
goal of the new shows they introduce to have multiple seasons and not cross over onto the big screen. And the primary reason that they are doing this is so Feige can focus on the movies, and they're even going to have a senior executive overseeing television, which as far as we're concerned, I believe that is Brad Winderbaum, head of Marvel TV. Marvel's top priority is ensuring that the next 2 Avengers extend the track record of the franchise. So Marvel decided to brainstorm on how they could make Avengers Kang Dynasty better, and it just so happened that at that time, Kevin Feige had been talking to Robert Downey Jr. for more than a year about returning to the MCU to specifically play Doctor Doom. They just didn't know when or where he could return and appear in the MCU. But as they started to think about what to do for Kang Dynasty, they ultimately decided that Robert Downey Jr. was the solution to their so-called Avengers problem. So they changed Avengers Kang Dynasty to Avengers Doomsday and announced that Robert Downey Jr. would be returning to play Doom. And they don't mention this, but I'm sure the fact that Jonathan Majors got into all of the trouble that he did made it pretty easy to move away from Kang, on top of already beginning to think about moving away from Kang. Then on top of that, they hired the Russo brothers to come back for the next 2 Avengers films as well, stating that Kevin Feige likes to go back to people he trusts, particularly in moments of urgency, which I would definitely say that Marvel was in. So Marvel Studios has a completely new plan moving forward, and the article ends actually by
But I'm wondering what they do with Doom though, because I'm really hoping it's actually interesting and not a cash grab. You know what I mean? Because like they be bringing people back. You feel what I'm saying? But I know it's gonna be so tough for Spider-Man, bro. Cause it's like he gotta see the face of his dead mentor, like killing everybody, bro. Like, bro, I feel like he got to have a hand in be taking down Doom. If not be the one who takes him down, bro. Cause that would be perfect, bro. That would be perfect.
Stating, in many ways, Marvel has now reverted to its strategy from before the streaming boom, as if the past 5 years had been a dream. As he did when Marvel Studios started, Feige has an expansive vision for his company's big screen future. The upcoming Avengers movies are expected to introduce the X-Men, one of Marvel's most popular superhero teams, to the MCU. Feige has told colleagues he has a 10-year plan for the characters. So, huge news for us Marvel fans. Marvel Studios is basically going back to how they did it in the Infinity Saga. And the phrase, "in Feige we trust," does come to mind because when Feige can directly oversee projects and give time to those projects, that's when they're good. And now Marvel Studios has a head of television to where Feige doesn't really have to be involved, which means now, and this is their plan, he can completely focus on movies. And this is going to make a really big difference for both TV and movies because now Brad Winderbaum can make all the decisions for TV shows and he can make them pretty much right away when they need to be made. This will lead to things not being done at the last minute, and the same thing goes for movies. Kevin Feige can be involved the entire time. So instead of the creative team working on something for weeks and then Kevin Feige coming in and saying, nope, that doesn't work, start over or do something else, that's not the case anymore. He can be with them when they begin and either say, yes, this is good, or no, it's not, let's go a different direction. This is going to really just improve the quality of all of the projects coming from Marvel Studios a ton. So their new strategy combined with the X-Men now coming to our new universe after Secret Wars and the Fantastic Four and whoever else they get to appear is going to mean Marvel Studios is going to be at its very best after Avengers Secret Wars. But really, hopefully, starting with the Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday and Secret
I
Wars, that
can't
should be
wait
the
for
best for Marvel Studios
Fantastic
as well,
Four.
because they're already doing
I
what
can't
they're
wait
doing.
for
Feige has been
Fantastic
way more
Four.
involved with these projects than he's been in the last 5 years. So, hopefully, they are fantastic. I think this is great news, but go ahead and let me know what you think about all.
I feel like Fantastic Four probably about to be one of the best Marvel movies we've got in a minute. Cause I haven't been going to see every like Marvel movie. I think the last time I went to a theater to go see a Marvel movie, it was like, was it Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with Rocket Raccoon? I don't I don't know. I didn't go see Thunderbolts. People are saying that one's good. I didn't I watched the trailers. I couldn't really get into it. Like I just didn't really care about these characters. Like yeah, okay, it's Black Widow's family and stuff. I just couldn't really I couldn't really get into it. Uh, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I feel like bro, the MCU about to be in such a good position. We got we got Fantastic Four. We got Spider Man. Oh, it's Fantastic Four. Then it's Doomsday, and then it's Spider Man, or is it Fantastic Four, Spider Man, Doomsday? Either way, bro, I can tell the MCU is gonna be in such a great position. Like, you know what I'm saying? They chilling out on the TV shows and they going in with the movies. I can't wait to see what they do, bro. Fantastic Four about to come out in like a month or two, not like 2 or 3 months, right? So that's a must see for me. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I can't wait to see what they do, bro. And I've never really been like a big Fantastic Four fan, but I feel like since it's connected to Doomsday, I kind of care what's going on, and they hyping up Doomsday. So like, you know what I'm saying? I really want to see what's going on, cause I feel like they actually about to make some like hits, bro. But all right, y'all, that's enough of me yapping. You know what I'm saying? If you like the video, thank you for watching the video. By the way, if you like the video, I need some water. If you like the video, like, subscribe, do all of that stuff, press all of the buttons. I'm pretty sure it glows when I say subscribe, so you know what I'm saying. That means that you should do it. I'll see y'all in the next one. You know what I'm saying.